Hello everyone and welcome to another installment of the Figuring Out Fatherhood Chris Unplugged podcast. For those of you who don't know, this podcast comes out every Tuesday at 8 p.m. British Standard Time. If you don't already do it, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like my videos, make sure you follow my social media pages, etc. The usual stuff. But let's just get right into it. On today's episode, I want to talk to you about something called emotional incest. Some of you may be familiar with what this term is, but for those of you who don't know, we're going to do a deep dive into what it is, what the causes and effects are, and how it impacts children. In order to fully understand what emotional incest is, we need to have a look at what incest is. And a quick Google search will tell you that incest is when two individuals who are too closely related, or who are related, engage in sexual activities. Essentially, sexual relations between family members. Now, emotional incest is defined as occurring when an adult or parent is unwilling or unable to form emotional relationships with another adult, and instead they force these emotional relationships with their children. Some experts have defined emotional incest as a form of abuse because children can't consent to playing the emotional role of a partner. In addition to that, adult-child boundaries are consistently violated in cases of emotional incest. The child may not necessarily have the experience or knowledge to understand and enforce boundaries, which is why another reason why experts refer to it as abuse. Before we get into the meat of this episode, which is discussing what emotional incest looks like, it's important that you know that the same things that we're going to discuss could just be a result of a parent and child being close, and there may not be any form of emotional incest or abuse involved. So before you go around accusing someone of emotional incest or accusing people of doing the wrong thing, make sure you do your own research. It's not up to you to diagnose a parent and child of emotional incest, or it's not up to you to accuse them of emotional incest, shall I say. So now that I've covered that off, what does emotional incest look like? Over-reliance on a child for emotional support. Children are very, very capable of providing emotional support, especially in situations where you as a parent, if you pour into your child, you pour in love, emotional support into your child, naturally they will reflect this and pour back into you. But the key word to note where it becomes a problem is reliance. If you're relying on a child for emotional support, for comfort, for reassurance, and making the child do something that an adult should be doing, this could be emotional incest. Second thing, no clear-cut boundaries. If you consistently invade your child's personal space, even if they've asked for space, or not allowing your child to have their own personal space, this could be emotional incest. Another example is doing things that make the child feel uncomfortable, such as being naked in front of your child, even when they told you not to, or not respecting the child's request for privacy when they're naked. Like, these are forms of emotional incest. Third thing, feeling jealous of the child's relationships. Now, hear me out. I know it sounds outrageous at first, but think about it. The child grows up and the parent becomes jealous of the child's relationship. The parent could end up sabotaging the relationships. Let me give you an example, actually. If you watch Think Like a Man, I believe his name is Terrence J, his character, and Jennifer Lewis's character, that is a form of emotional incest. And in terms of sabotaging their relationship, it could be the parent being intrusive, not giving good advice, or rejecting the child's partner for no valid reason beyond their jealousy, or competing for the child's attention, competing with the child's partner for the child's attention. Obviously, I say the child, but by this point, the child will be an adult. Generally speaking, emotional incest makes a child feel like an adult because they're discussing adult issues, even though they may not be equipped to do that, and it is inappropriate to make the child discuss adult issues. They don't have the life experience, the years of living, the mileage even of living as an adult, or going through the transition from childhood to adulthood in order to effectively respond to adult issues. And they shouldn't even have to in the first place. Allow a child to be a child, which is another reason why emotional incest is also a problem. Unfortunately, as at the time of me recording this video, there hasn't been enough research into the causes and effects of emotional incest. So some of the examples I'm about to give you are, and correct me if I'm wrong as I'm saying this word, anecdotal. And what this means is it's based on people's experiences as opposed to research that's gone into it, of facts and figures. And this is not to downplay its existence or the severity of it, it's just for full transparency. Therapists have had to deal with, well, victims of emotional incest, and they have validated that it's very, very real. But in terms of isolating and identifying the causes and effects, like I said, it's anecdotal. However, some of the potential effects of emotional incest are having a love-hate relationship with the parent, child having difficulty in identifying their own personal needs as a result of caring for someone else for so long, feeling inadequate or unworthy, difficulty forming lasting relationships, being a people pleaser. These are just some of the effects, or potential effects, shall I say, of emotional incest. Some of the causes of emotional incest are relationship dysfunction or breakdown for the parent getting cheated on, infidelity, losing the partner as a result of a divorce, breakup, the partner dying, domestic abuse, and a more common one is the parent themselves experiencing emotional incest as a child and growing up and repeating that pattern. Generally speaking, the causes of emotional incest revolve around misguided coping mechanisms as a result of something that's happened to the parent, leading them to rely on their child for comfort or support. Now, I know this is a very brief episode, but as I start to wrap up, it's important that I cover a few key points. Now, while experts know that emotional incest is very real and very severe, some do think that the term emotional incest itself isn't very useful because it's easy to refer to any parent-child dysfunctional dynamic being as a result of emotional incest. As well as that, children often meet the needs of parents. Like, it's actually very, very natural, right? But there's no hard line description of where it's just a supportive child and then it becoming abuse or emotional incest. There's no exact definition, which is another reason why it's important that you don't go around accusing people of this. Emotional incest essentially equates to the adult, putting their needs over the child's needs, harming the child's development in the process. And more time, parents who take part in emotional incest don't realise the harm they actually do to their child. Because there's no sexual activity involved, they don't realise that it's actually damaging and abusive. And generally speaking, to be honest, emotional incest happens when an adult just relies on a child for emotional support that a partner should be providing. Cool, and that's all I have for you guys today. I know this episode was kind of brief, but I do hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this episode and you found it informative, or you feel like there's anyone that would benefit from having this information, make sure to share it with your friends, share it on social media, share it with just anyone who will benefit from this information. And I'm going to leave you guys how I always leave you, and that's to make it your mission today to make a decision that future you'll be grateful for. Future you'll be grateful for checking your behavior with your child, as it could be emotional incest. So until next time, guys.